All right, we're live in the green room. I'm here in Silicon Valley. I'm not on a plane, but we're with amazing producer Elle, my co-host, co-founder, Vala Afshar, of course, and our amazing guest. We always do introductions, as you know, from reverse order of appearance. So we'll do that. We'll ask our guests where they're coming in from, and more importantly, what are they talking about? So we'll start with you, Faisal Hoque. What's going on? Where are we?
I'm in Boston today. We're going to talk about my new book called Transcend. It's kind of intersection of philosophy, technology, and business. Looking forward to the conversation.
I can't wait. You're in the intellectual capital of the country. Amazing. Jason. Jason, where are you coming in from?
I'm calling in from Minneapolis, Edina, Minnesota. Great to be here. And I'm going to be talking a lot today about transformation. You've heard that trans root there both times, change, transformation, and all of the change that's going on in the workplace, work, as well as technology.
And I'm totally out of order, but Cynthia, where are you coming in from? You're coming in second on the show. Sorry about that.
I'm calling in from Washington, D.C., and I'll be talking about my new book, The Pause Principle, How to Keep Your Cool in Tough Situations. So really learning in the moment practices to keep calm, even when it's very hard to do.
Oh, take a breath.
Yeah.
So very, very cool. Hey, this is the show. It's going to be amazing. And of course, we're going to kick it off and we will send it off to you, Elle, for the count.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on DisrupTV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on X at DisrupTV Show. We'll do our best to answer any questions you have live during the show. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host, Ray Wang. He's the CEO and founder of Constellation Research. He's the best-selling author of Everybody Wants to Rule the World. I see Ray on TV just about every day. He's on Fox Business, Bloomberg, CNBC. He's one of the most influential futurists on X at RWANG0. Welcome, Ray Wang, to DisrupTV.
Hey, thanks a lot. With amazing call host, Vala Afshar is the Chief Digital Evangelist for Salesforce. He's also the author of multiple books, including Boundless. And of course, I'm sure he's writing a new one soon. But it's a new mindset for unlimited business success and a #1 seller on Amazon. Executives around the world pay attention to every one of his inspirational and insightful tweets. And when he's not keynoting or leading events at Salesforce, you can find him on business outlets such as Bloomberg and, of course, writing insightful analyses on ZDNet, one of the top blogs on ZDNet, if I might say. But it's not about us. It's about amazing guests. And every week, we don't know how we find these folks, why they come to us, but we have some great guests to kick it off. Who do we have today, Vala?
I think they come here because of you, but it's pretty awesome for us to have someone I've been following in the world of talent management and performance management and human resources. Jason Averbook is global lead on HR transformation and AI at Mercer. As a senior partner and global leader of digital HR strategy at Mercer, Jason helps organizations realize the true value of their workforce and the impact that workforce has on business outcomes. Prior to Mercer, Jason was co-founder and CEO of LeapGen, a digital transformation company helping organizations shape their future workplace. Jason is also, he's an author of multiple books, including HR From Now to Next and The Ultimate Guide to Digital Workforce Experience. Jason is a recognized analyst, thought leader. He's an investor. He's a keynote speaker on topics of human resources, future of work, and the role of technology in shaping workforce of tomorrow. He's a member of the Forbes Business Council and several advisory boards. He's been recognized globally as one of the top 3 thought leaders around human resource technology and future of work. Surely someone I've been following for more than a decade. Please follow Jason on X at Jason Averbook. Jason, welcome to DisrupTV.
Vala, thank you. And thank you for that thank you for that kind introduction. And you can find my latest book on Substack. Sorry, I don't have a fancy book to hold up like you guys. Like, I just try to keep up on Substack once in a while. So I don't have a fancy book to hold up, but it's great to be with you guys.
Thank you so much, Jason.
You don't need a fancy book like that to get anywhere. Everybody already knows who you are. I go to every HR conference, HR tech conference, and you are there. So it's you're definitely one of the top thought leaders in the world on this space. Recently, you penned an article called "Mind the AI Gap: Change Managers' Guide to Crossing the Digital Divide." I think it was very important because you went down and not talked about technology. You talked about what was required to be successful in AI, and you talked about everything but technology, which was the important part. Share with us what that is and why that's important, because a lot of folks are trying to implement AI and they're not being successful.
Yeah, Ray, thanks for that. One of the things, I mean, I've been around. Vala made me feel old as usual, but I've been around for a long time, and I started in the mainframe DOS. Well, you don't even know what DOS is, but the DOS era, implementing payroll on mainframe.
Let's not go there.
mainframe and DOS systems. From a technology standpoint, we moved from mainframe and DOS to then Windows with a mouse, to client server, to cloud. But guess what? All those shifts, we basically did the same thing. IT didn't do the same thing, but how we did our work, we basically did the same thing. A lot of fat fingering, a lot of data entry, but instead of fat fingering, I fat moused it, or I looked up and had to move my mouse or use my trackpad instead of doing data entry. AI is not just a shift in technology. And unfortunately, a lot of people are missing that. They think it's just, hey, let's go from cloud to AI. That's not what this is. This isn't like a shift in technology. This is a shift in work. This is a shift in humanity. This is a shift in how we think. So, Ray, what I tried to do with that specific piece was to say this isn't your traditional change management, where we're going to train someone to use the tech. This is what we call changefulness, which is opening the mind to a new way of work. And if you don't have that mind open to that new way of work, guess what? People are going to go there. They're going to say this thing doesn't work, and then they're going to move on just like every other tech. And what I'm hoping is that we don't waste this amazing innovation, probably the biggest innovation that we'll all have in our careers, just because we treat it like another tech moment.
That's great advice to business leaders and folks responsible for managing talent. I think we're the last generation responsible for managing only people. The next generation, my son is 14. When he's out of grad school in 10 years, he's going to be very likely part of a workforce that's human and digital labor combined, the new hybrid workforce, which is not a function of geography. And when I think about Darwin reminding us survival of the fittest, I ask myself, Jason, this question: what does the fittest companies look like 5, 10, 15 years from now? And my sense is the fittest companies are autonomous, which means they will have digital labor as part of how they produce products, how they deliver service. And this, as a technologist, our ability to master language through NLP, our ability to reason through a variety of capabilities within the science of AI, and this continuous improvement, language understanding, reasoning, and continuous improvement has given birth to this wave of agentic AI, which is really the source of what will be digital labor. You've talked about reflecting on this notion of meet the AI middle manager, why your digital workforce needs a supervisor. So you envision this role of human leadership evolving AI agents, and you've used specifically the word autonomously in terms of managing tasks. Talk about what it means for businesses to challenge dominant logic, where you're comfortable with your son potentially 10 years from now being managed by a digital entity. And the fact that this hybrid workforce is no longer just where you are physically, but the makeup of software, intelligent software, and people, managing your company's tasks.
Well, it's such a great topic. And, for me, one of the things we talk a lot about with organizations around the world is this concept of human machine teaming. How do we take a human and how do we take a machine and team them together to create a 1 + 1 = 5? Okay. Now, when we talk about that, what does that mean? It means that we, as let's just take HR for a second, but let's tie it one step further and say business, need to think about how do we redesign work? That's hard. That is really hard stuff. It's not like saying, hey, log into this new tool. The tool isn't going to redesign work. We have to redesign work to say, what do we want humans to be good at? What are machines good at? And how do we pair them together? Now, I think that HR and talent, as you said, Vala, that talent management is key to this, because one of the things that's so tied to this is reskilling and upskilling. It's on every leader's head that I talk to every single day. Is how are we going to reskill? How are we going to upskill? I need training on Copilot. I need training on ChatGPT. I'm like, you don't need training on Copilot and ChatGPT. You need training on how to rethink what work means, rethink how humans and machines work together. And then instead of your HR department being good at counting heads, how do we make your HR department great at making heads count and thinking about how do humans and machines team together going forward? So I think that's the challenge, Vala. And at the same time, I think it's the massive, massive opportunity that I've been hoping for in my career. Like when we rolled out self-service, Ray, like, oh, this is going to change work and it's going to change everything. And oh, guess what? I only change my address once a year. And Ray, how many times a year do you have a baby? Oh, only once a year. Just kidding, Ray. But all that being said, I didn't use these things very often. So, but now to redesign work in a way that thinks about human and machines together, it is truly our opportunity to take the best of both.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that shift, right? How we redesign our work patterns. When and where do you insert a human becomes important. You figure out, it's going to be automated, but when you put the human touch is going to change the way we do that. The way we manage is definitely there. It's going to shift, right? And I think, what Vala was saying earlier, like his son is basically looking at this world in a very different way. Let's just take your point. Like you said, when a 20-something redefined my leadership blueprint this week, that's actually pretty cool, right? I mean, what did you learn by talking to a 20-year-old and their leadership style? Is it like walk the office? I don't think so.
I think what's so important about that point, Ray, is that, I have a 20-year-old who's studying and doing a lot of entrepreneurial boot camp work in Singapore and Malaysia right now. I have a 17-year-old here in Minneapolis. They only know this world. And the way that their responses to AI and AI agents is, so what? Like, Dad, you're really going on to talk about that again? And then there's the rest of us that are like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. And look what this is going to do to work, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, Ray, what we're seeing this massive generational kind of group coming together where there are some, and I wrote a piece on this not too long ago, that are ready for retirement. And retirement being like, hey, we're almost done. Like, I'm not going to worry about this AI stuff. And then there's a bunch of people that need to be retired. Now, I'm in Minnesota where we put snow tires on the car, which we need to be retired, which means I need to rethink my skills, rethink my mindset, and most importantly, rethink how work works in my company. And I would beg people to think about that. Am I working with people that are about to retire, or am I working with people that need to be retired?
That's great. You know what? When I listen to you talk about digital labor and the role of AI as one of the top thought leaders in the human resource space, do you think it? And this is, I'm going to follow up with my real question, but this just popped in my mind. Do you think we're going to rename HR? 25 years ago we stuck cloud when we talked about computing in outside your premise. And after 25 years, people don't really say cloud computing anymore. It's just compute for the most part. And if human resources if the labor force is not just humans, but humans and software and hardware, because we're talking about agentic AI and physical AI. So in terms of car manufacturing, the first industrial robot was introduced in the mid-60s. So there are industries for well over 50 years. The producing of goods was men, women, and robots. But do you think we'll talk about human resources differently with a different label when it's a mix of software and hardware and humans?
Well, I think we have to, and if we don't, those companies that don't are going to become the blockbuster video.
Wow.
Because I think you really have to look at this as talent.
Yeah.
And say, I've got human talent and I've got machine talent, and I'm going to apply it to my business strategy. And I, in HR, if I'm really doing my job, I should be thinking about how do I leverage my talent, which means I have to know my talent, which is a different discussion. But instead of talent management being once a year performance reviews, once a year engagement surveys, how do I make sure that talent is like the supply chain in manufacturing where it has to work? But guess what? Now I have a people and machine chain, and I want to apply that people and machine chain, that talent, the talent chain, to getting things done.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, you being a unicorn, and I don't mean to say that, what I mean is you're a technologist who finds your joy and your purpose in your career in terms of transforming companies through function of human resource. When you talk about people and digital labor, where do you see the role of IT in terms of actively being present, almost functioning as an extension of HR, because you're now codifying and applying algorithms? And with Copilot, you had a bunch of smart interns. Now you have a bunch of trusted operators with agentic. You're literally taking action. You've given software agency to autonomously be a colleague. So does IT and HR converge more and more in the next 5 to 10 years, knowing that your digital labor is a function of being able to comfortably modify algorithms and logic in order to produce outcomes?
Well, I think that's a great question. I'm going to say it again. I think it's talent, not HR. I think that the talent, there's going to be people talent and there's going to be machine talent, and IT is going to be responsible for bringing that machine talent to the table. HR, or talent human, is going to be responsible for bringing the human talent to the table. And I just want to go back to something you said. I put this on LinkedIn yesterday because I found this so fascinating. I don't think I'm a technologist. I appreciate you saying that. I think I'm a human. And I saw yesterday, I put it on LinkedIn, that what Gen AI is doing in cancer research, like if you see that 95 to 99.9% accuracy in predicting cancer early with what Gen AI is doing, to me, like that's why I care about the technology. Like, and I don't want us to lose that in all of this. There's the agents, and there's the blah, and there's the blah, and there's the MCP, and oh man, this is going to get rid of APIs and all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, why are we doing this? We're doing this because we're trying to make work better, we're trying to make life better, and we're trying to make humanity better. And that's what I care most about.
That's a great point.
We're definitely seeing the shift in terms of leadership. We're seeing the shift in terms of how technology is being used. Where do you see the impact that's happening in terms of people's mission and purpose? Because we think that's going to be one of the areas where we see the biggest change management that people have to think about, because someone's job that was to go file something or do highly repetitive tasks, or their job was to do things that a machine can now do better, and they feel like they've lost purpose and mission. Have you thought through what that means for people or how they fix that?
I've only thought through it, Ray, from the standpoint of what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing in the work that I do in coding my own stuff now and things like that is, instead of me learning how to use a machine, the machine is learning how to work with me. And that is so important. So important, because for 30 years, all we've been doing is training people on how to use this dumb keyboard. And guess what? I don't want to use the keyboard. I just want to talk. Do you know how much is lost between my brain and when I actually type it and what gets done versus if I just speak? So, Ray, what I'm really seeing is that the technology innovation is bringing out the best in humanity. It's allowing us to focus on the creative side of us. It's allowing us to focus on the interaction, not the transaction. But at the same time, Ray, I'm just going to say this, and I know you're going to cut me off soon. I think this means massive change to this software industrial complex that you and I and Vala have been part of for the last 25 years, where we've been building these massive tech platforms and we've been teaching people how to use them. Now we're in a different spot where the platform's learning how we want to work and meeting us where we are. That's the changefulness part, Ray, that I see as the biggest struggle that organizations are having right now, because it's different than how anyone's rolled out software in our lifetime.
Super important.
UX for AI, but software for others, software for AI versus software for humans is going to shift, right? We're going to see that there. So, well, hey, Jason Averbook, global leader in HR transformation and AI at Mercer. And
I have so many more questions for Jason. I can't, it's not fair. This 20 minutes felt like a minute.
Follow him on X if you got
Thanks,
more questions at Jason Averbook. And more importantly, you can catch him, of course, on LinkedIn and all the other major HR publications because they're interviewing him all the time. Thanks a lot, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Cheers. Oh, God, I have so many more questions for Jason. I'm telling you, which is great because we're going to connect and we're going to learn. And we have some of the best and brightest authors come on our show, and this is no exception with our next guest, Cynthia Kane, author of The Pause Principle, How to Keep Your Cool in Tough Situations. Cynthia helps people enhance their lives and relationships by teaching them how to become less reactive in difficult conversations and speak to themselves, others, and their environment in a kind, honest, and helpful way. Cynthia has taught over 70,000 people how to change the way they communicate through her books, How to Communicate Like a Buddhist, Talk to Yourself Like a Buddhist, How to Meditate Like a Buddhist, best-selling Daily Om course, and Kane International Communication Training Programs. Cynthia is a certified meditation mindfulness instructor, certified breathing coach, and the founder of the Kane International Communication Institute. You can follow Cynthia on X at CYN Kane, Kane. Welcome, Cynthia, to DisrupTV.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I'm happy.
Thank you for being here.
Really happy to have you here. If you notice around the world, people are getting a little more hot-headed, people get a little more emotional, conversations are hard, discourse is not possible. And, you know, it starts with what you're talking about. Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard? You lead in your opening chapter. Why is it so hard to take a pause?
Well, it's really difficult to take a pause because we are actually wired not to, right? It is really in our biology where we are designed to react. So if you go back into the Stone Age, right, where we are really in survival mode, we are trying to fend off threats, fend off save ourselves from different weather patterns, go out for food. We're constantly on high alert. And we are really in the state of our nervous system, which is the sympathetic nervous system, which is that fight, flight, freeze nervous system. And what evolutionary psychologists have found is that our nervous system has not changed since that time. So basically, where before we may have been being chased by tigers, now we are triggered in the same way by different emotional, environmental, or psychological psychological events. And so really anytime we feel threatened, our armor goes up and we are very quick to react because now it's our colleagues, now it's our partner, now it's our kids, right? That are the everyday lions for us. And so we are just reacting to most everything in our day-to-day life, going into that cortisol pumping through the body, right? Just the stress response takes over. So it's really challenging because we're just doing what we're supposed to be doing, really, by reacting.
In your book, you talk about 6 effective strategies to deal with tough situations. 2 questions. One, what motivated you to write the book? When did you realize that you have this superpower of mindfulness and ability to deal with difficult situations? Was there a mentor, a teacher, parents? Was there someone that influenced your career path and your mission? And then perhaps talk to us about the 6 effective strategies in your book. Is there one that's more important than the other? What are your favorite of the 6 that you practice every day. Tell us a little bit about the 6 strategies.
Yeah. So I got into all of my work in a really roundabout way. I used to be a terrible communicator. I was very passive aggressive, very judgmental, and I hated confrontation. I hated difficult conversations. I had a really hard time expressing myself, and I really loved just like shutting down and, walking away from a challenging interaction. And I did not like discomfort. I had no idea how to become comfortable in discomfort. And then I lost my first love very unexpectedly. And it really pushed me into this place of complete, emptiness and trying to figure out how to live in the world again, basically, and enjoy my time here. And so that's when I started, reading all the books, doing all the research, going, to different courses or seminars. And what I started to figure out was that there was something about communicating that could help me, right? And I ended up going to a meditation and writing retreat. And when I learned meditation, that truly changed it totally changed my relationship to the discomfort that I was experiencing. And then when I learned how to take a lot of that practice and bring it into my day-to-day, what I started to notice was that I was really able to expand my capacity for discomfort. And so suddenly conversations where before I would be very nervous about or worried about, I was really able to handle very easily because I now understood how practices are really needed in that moment, right? Most of us think of, we just need to say the right thing and feathers wouldn't be ruffled or things of that sort. But it truly is these little practices that we can do to help us stay in a conversation, even when it's challenging, so that then we can access ourselves again and express ourselves. And so when I talk about the 6 practices, really it starts with sensation and becoming aware of what's happening in our body in a challenging moment, because we are such a thinking society. We really often forget that we have a whole thing attached to us under our chin, right? And especially when we're communicating, we don't think of this part. We even sometimes just forget that we're breathing completely. So our work is, can I start to pay attention to the sensation that is happening within my body in a challenging moment? So maybe that means you start feeling your heart beating faster, or you start sweating a little bit, or your jaw gets tight, or you feel like, a little nauseous in the stomach. For me, it's just this heat that just rises and I feel, it run up to my face. And sensation is so important for us to tap into, because that's your cue to know, okay, I'm going to react the way that I always do, right? But so it's a wonderful moment, because in that moment we get to choose, right? This is where we actually create the space to sub in a practice or, a tool to access our parasympathetic nervous system so we can feel calm. So the practices that follow are really owning your discomfort, focusing on the present moment, turning your eyes toward others, taking a breath, and need to say. So each of those has many different practices within them that I talk about in my book. But the idea being that, with each of them, what we're doing is we are detaching from the chaos that is in front of us. We are being able to own our own discomfort in that moment, right? We're able to detach from the distraction where we get caught in the other person's language and in the back and forth, and we can then focus on the present moment. We then, notice that the other person has become more the enemy or the other, and we need to humanize them again, right? So we need to understand, how can I see this person as somebody that I want to be helpful to, supportive of? And then the other is, we think so much about what we need to say in challenging conversations to the other person, but we rarely think about what we need to say to ourselves in the moment so that we can handle the conversation, right? So that we can actually take a moment, take a step back, pause so that then we can come forward with, clarity and concise language and so on.
So this is the hardest soften, right? This is your to get this in place.
Yeah.
What's the hardest one to get to, right? Is it the take a breath? Is it the fact that we're going from our flight response to something else? Or is it need to say? I mean, coming up with the words fast enough in the reaction point. Like, what should people practice?
So I think the challenge for a lot of people in the beginning is this sensation, because we are not accustomed to feeling anymore in a lot of ways, right? So a lot of us don't necessarily know what is a pleasant sensation, what is an unpleasant sensation, what's a neutral sensation in our body. So how do I even know that I'm uncomfortable? Because so much of us are living within, our stress response day to day, that we can't tell the difference of when we are relaxed or
too much Xanax, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when you have some Xanax, then you can feel that relaxation. Then you're like, oh, I'm totally in my parasympathetic nervous system right now. I can have that conversation.
Into my parasympathetic.
So yeah, but the idea being that, sometimes it's challenging to even know when we're at rest, right? So I think for some, that's really hard to do. I think the other piece is that it's understanding which practice would be easy for you to implement, right? So, finger tapping is one of the practices that you can do. So you start to feel that sensation and you just start, tapping your fingers. And this you can do easily under a desk. You can even put your hand on your thigh and pushing into your thigh to help yourself. Another one is just like rubbing. This is called the trega, and it's you just rub this little flap in the ear and you can start to feel your body relaxing. So you start to understand the practices and then decide, okay, what is actually easy for me? And then you just need one or two as your go-to, and then you're pretty much set, right? I think that some will be more difficult. I think one of the ones that's most difficult would be, knowing what we need to say to ourselves in that moment to help ourselves relax a little bit. And then
I often find Ray playing with his ear when we talk. So now thank you for letting me know.
There you go. Or like maybe he's like pulling out on it.
He's just trying to calm himself. I didn't know that. I didn't know why it was.
All my tells are going away. I'm not playing poker with you anymore.
Yeah.
Cynthia,
we do a lot of these things without even knowing that we're doing them.
Right, exactly. With the fact that you've had experience coaching thousands, tens of thousands of folks, have you found that does age, does ethnicity, does gender, does someone's makeup and background influence how quickly they can apply your strategies in the pause principle? Or is this something that can be taught no matter where you are in your career or where you are in your life or who your parents were or what industry you work? Is this something that you feel can be taught regardless of all these things that make us unique individuals?
Yes, it is. And I know that that's, a bold kind of statement, but sure. It really is true that we all have our own unique sensations. We all have our unique ways of, going, like our default reactions of dodging, lashing out, walking away. They're going to be different in your working life than in your, personal life. But we are all wired biologically the same, right? And so these practices and this type of work, it doesn't matter all of what we, put on ourselves as differences. They don't matter.
Okay. And when you are working with executives and business leaders, how do they, language of business is finance. How do they capture the benefits of applying pause principle and mindfulness and ability to deal with conflict? Yeah. I'm assuming that if you're in an unhealthy culture where folks shut down or they're afraid to speak their point of view, it has material impact on the growth trajectory of the company and how it serves its stakeholders, employees, customers, partners, communities. Can you talk to us a little bit about financial benefits of applying pause principle and being able to, in a healthy, graceful, positive way, deal with difficult situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, financially, when we have difficult conversations and the communication is breaking down, we can lose clients, right? We can lose employees.
Sure.
We lose loyalty, we lose trust, and we don't foster an environment where creativity is born or collaboration lives. And so when we start to shift into softening more, let's just say, or grounding more in these challenging moments so that we can express ourselves in a kind, honest, and helpful way, what we do is we become way more efficient and productive. First off, we're not having to have so many meetings upon meetings upon meetings. So we're saving money there. We're saving a lot of time. And then we start to engage with those that we're working with differently, and people become more loyal, and word spreads. People then want to start working within the company because of it, right? And certain clients, the relationships begin to change there. And so more work comes in because clients are happy. So we start to create this environment where it's just abundant, right? And where it's thriving because everyone is really being taken care of, so to speak.
And that's a whole bunch of cost savings, right? You mentioned that it's about $4,200 per employee per year for cost of corporate miscommunication. That's just miscommunication. Right. I mean, there's other stuff that's going on right here. So, I mean, this is a huge issue for a lot of folks. When you think about this notion of like training or to get this in place, like what do companies have to do to actually do this? Is it something that they do on their own? Is it something that's a kind of an in-person training? What kind of tools do you have for folks like that want to get started on this?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of what happens within companies is that a lot of their employees will go through my training program. And so they'll pay for their employees to do that. And that specific training program, it's an online training program where they work with me directly, right? When it's within companies, it's more bringing the work in through, workshop series or over a course of, a year working within the company to be able to get the practices in place for the top down, right? Because that's really where it begins, is really from the top down. So that's.
Oh, okay. So if we're hothead CEOs, it's not going to.
Yeah, it's like, but more of the hothead CEOs are the one-to-one work, right?
Well, you can teach them how to communicate like a Buddhist.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. For our audience who may not be familiar with communicating like a Buddhist and mindfulness and the mindset, what are the one or two or three core principles that you need to, or core values you need to embrace in order to have I believe calmness is a superpower. Some of the most remarkable people I know, even when they're disappointed, even when they're upset, they're honest, graceful, self-aware. And so they bring calmness in the middle of a storm. And eventually, others see it and then gravitate towards a better place. What are the two or three core principles of Buddhists?
Yeah. So there's something called the elements of right speech in Buddhism, which is to tell the truth, don't exaggerate, use helpful language, and don't gossip. And so those are really the filters through which you run your language, right? And so
one more time, tell the truth, don't exaggerate.
Don't exaggerate, use helpful language, and don't gossip.
So much for viral social media.
Yeah, no kidding.
So if everything was filtered through these four principles, our world would look very, very different. Right?
And what is helpful language? What does that look like?
So helpful language is language that is supportive or that moves a conversation forward, as opposed to hurtful language, which would, compromise the integrity of the conversation.
Okay.
No, really, really important things. Cynthia, thanks for continuing your work. Author of The Pause Principle, How to Keep Your Cool in Tough Situations. You can follow her on X at Cyn Kane. And of course, a lot of courses and online work. And of course, get her book on Amazon. And of course, we'd love to catch up with you. If you're in the green room, we'll talk more. So thanks a lot, Cynthia.
Congratulations on your new book.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you. That's we could all use a little bit. We could all use a pause button once in a while, but we're not going to pause now, given our guest. And I'm sorry, Faisal, I had to cut your bio short because we only have 20 minutes. This man has done a lot. Faisal Hoque, award-winning entrepreneur, global recognized management thinker, and technologist, and a humanitarian. I'm not going to call him technologist after Jason. It's more than just that. #1 Wall Street Journal best-selling author, and author of a new book we're going to talk about, Transcend, Unlocking Humanity in the Age of AI. Faisal is recognized as one of the world's leading management thinkers and technologists. He's an award-winning entrepreneur and innovator, and a #1 best-selling author with 30 years of cross-industry experience. As founder CEO of multiple companies, Faisal is a 3-time winner of the Deloitte Technology Fast 50 and Fast 500 awards. He's a 3-time Wall Street Journal best-selling author for his books Reinvent, Everything Connects, and Lift. Everything Connects and Lift was also a USA Today bestseller. So Faisal just pumps out bestsellers. He has authored 10 award-winning books, more than 30 awards, including 2023 was Thinkers 50 Distinguished Achievement Award shortlist. We're going to learn about his new book, again, that you can pre-order now. It's available, I believe, April 8th. So in another 8-9 days, you're going to have it in your hand. It'll be on my back wall. His work has appeared on all major media, all of Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, Fast Company. He's been named among the top 100 most influential people in tech by editors of Ziff Davis. I'm going to stop. You've done too much. Your bio is too long.
I thought you were going to shorten it. What happened?
I have. You can follow him on X at Faisal_Hoque, HOQUE. Welcome, Faisal, to DisrupTV.
Thanks for having me.
What's really exciting is really when you have other futurists thinking about philosophy, right? And one of the big questions we're going to be asking this decade and beyond is really, what does it mean to be a human, right? And your work here really starts that conversation about where humanity goes next, and really about what that is. We hinted earlier in the program really about what that mission and purpose is going to look like in a world of AI. You've given some deep thoughts. Share with us some of that. I know it's all going to be in your book on April 8th as we think about Transcend. But I think the important piece is really like set the stage for what we're about to walk into, because I think a lot of people are confused about the shifts that are happening. And this is just the technology front. I mean, we're not talking global world orders or anything like that. I mean, this is just on the societal and technology front of what AI means.
Yeah, look, I mean, the conversation that you guys just had with Jason and then with Cynthia, I mean, that's essentially the technology and humanity, right? So, if you think about where humanity is going to struggle as we think about AI as not just a digital work partner, but a new species that's going to be much more smarter and in many ways much more organized, and we are going to be increasingly dependent on it. You have to start thinking about which part of humanity remains as humanity, and in the process of progress, do we lose it all? That's really the fundamental question. And even better is, what is humanity? I mean, what part of what does it mean to be human, right? So that's probably the biggest question. Is it that we would just want to protect the goodness of humanity? Do we want to protect the creativity of humanity? Is it that we want to protect the societal calmness that we want to achieve? What part of humanity do we want to protect? And AI is not as you just heard from Jason, and you guys talked about it, Cynthia talked about it. The fact is that it's not just a new technology. It's a total disruptive way of thinking, behaving, interacting, living, working, governing, etc., right? So with that power comes responsibility. So as much as I'm an optimist, I'm also kind of a concern in terms of what we make ourselves within the next 3, 5, 10 years time frame.
Yeah, I'm really interested in your point of view. When we were talking to Jason, we used the word autonomous, and we talked about digital labor, but the word autonomous And my company's headquarters is in San Francisco. So when I'm visiting HQ, whether it's Amazon, Zoox, or an Alphabet, Waymo, or Robotaxi from Tesla, it's exciting, but it's also scary. Like when you're in a car, in an autonomous vehicle, I got to tell you, even as a technologist, which I consider myself, 30 years of tech, when I don't see a steering wheel, when I don't see the gas and brake pedal, when I don't see mirrors, when I don't see a rear window, like you're kind of uneasy. and you know it's safer, it works, but it's uneasy. So this AI first design principles that led to a car that doesn't have a steering wheel, doesn't have mirrors, doesn't have brakes. I'm thinking about self-driving business. When are we going to transcend to a point of view where we're going to let go of the wheel in business? And what does that wheel look like? What are your thoughts in terms of, so for me, it's excitement, and I'm a little bit anxious, not scared, anxious. I'm not, I'm not afraid of technology, but I'm anxious. When you think about self-driving businesses as we transcend to this whole new world, how do we get to feel comfortable letting go of the steering wheel? And what will businesses look like when they're autonomous?
So look, I mean, the bigger question is, just because we can, should we, right? So you're talking about.
Can you stop it though? Can you play Christensen Innovator's Dilemma? You may hit gravity, but gravity doesn't care.
Right. Well, that is the quintessential conversation on a Friday afternoon with a glass of beer, right? Because I mean, but to your point, I mean, I was actually driving in Germany, and at some point I was not in an autonomous car, but it was one of those newer cars, and it started telling me that that I should stop for coffee because I was driving after after a flight, and I was not always staying in the lane, right? So it's what's happening is that we're slowly and gradually kind of outsourcing ourselves. What I mean by that, the way we think, the way we write, the way we get in a car, the way we look up information, the way we decide what show to see, the way we decide what shoe to buy, right? So now you take to the next level, what stock we should invest in, right? What agents should we call up for our support, and which healthcare provider should we go to? This is like, at some point we will stop thinking, right? So if we outsource ourselves, that's when it becomes interesting, because when you're talking about, yes, it's a digital coworker, but that's going to be short-lived, because it's going to go beyond digital coworker. What I mean by that is that I compare this a parent-child relationship. What happens is that as you become, you're talking about your son, earlier. I have a 22-year-old as well. I mean, and then I've seen this with my parents. I mean, at some point, I became my parents' parent, and they became my child, right? So AI is a child now, right? Soon it'll become a parent. So what will happen? Is it that it's gonna control us? Is it gonna tell us what time to get up, what to eat, I mean, it's already happening unconsciously, but it's going to take over, right? So the question is, to what extent do we allow it to take over and kind of become a complete, dependent versus an active, active participant in the future, right? So when you talk about, self-driving business, should we have self-driving health service? Should we have self-driving government? I don't know. I mean, I've got a problem with that. I like my freedom. So if you ask me, how do you define humanity, as we did in Transcend, we kind of talked about from 2 points of view. Is humanity is about freedom, because we all like to be free to do what we want to do, and that goes back to like basic Maslow's hierarchical notion, where there's a self-actualization process, and we should be free to pursue that once basic standards are met, right? So that's kind of basic human function. Second is love meaning not just love for our spouse or love for our girlfriend, but it's love for life. It's love for a craft, a love for a purpose, right? So if we start outsourcing all that, and now we can take it to the next level where we're forming relationship with whether that's a research assistant persona, or whether that's a assistant, or whether that's a counselor. I mean, these personas with agents are cropping up, and we're getting more and more dependent to that, right? So
yeah.
This is why conversation gets very interesting, because then it boils down to what's the purpose? Why are we doing this?
It's a great point, right? And in your book, you also talk about agency in a really weird way, right? I mean, is the system working for us, or is the system working for the system, right? And to a degree, what is that give and take? And I think that's going to be a big question as to how much agency we have as humans in some of those decisions. And then what do the insurers think? Because they're going to come into place, right? It's like, you don't get to do that. I mean, it's going to happen one day. I will not be able to afford to drive on my own because everyone else is an autonomous vehicle, and I'm an insurance risk because I am driving as a human. Right. I mean, these things are about to happen to us. And it's a question of like, what part of humanity do we want to protect? And how much risk and serendipity do we want to include in this equation? Because
Ray, knowing the worst AI is the AI you're using today, meaning it's improving so fast.
Yep.
That anything you complain about in terms of whatever you want to complain, hallucination, biases, toxicity, whatever, just wait a few weeks, months, year. I mean, it's the worst AIs today's, and it's amazing now.
Yeah.
And it's the worst. It's the worst you use it.
100%. I mean, like I wrote a piece on Harvard Business Review a couple of weeks back. And I went to Gemini's, that notebook LM thing. I said, okay, let me just convert this into a podcast. And, and I'm playing this, and my wife walks in my office, and she said, who are these people? I said, this is not people. It's AI agent. I said, what? I said, yeah, I can't believe my own ears. But it's like, 3 of our conversation would be easily replaced by that notebook.
Ray's going to replace me on Disrupt, thanks to Faisal giving him hints on technology that's available. So there'll be an agentic version of me very quickly.
Yeah, no, these are very, it's a fun to talk about, but it's also a very serious, serious subject, because I think, and then I read this piece from Bill Gates, or interview, he was talking about the fact that, most of the work is going to be done AI that we don't need to do, which is absolutely true. I mean, we don't need to go to, nobody needs to farm, because there'll be robots, humanoid robots doing that. Taco Bell will stop, staffed by, the humanoid robots, and food is being cooked by robots. God knows what, right? So we have unlimited time. The question is, what happens when you have unlimited time? And there's also, we haven't really started to think about the economic impact, because I don't think, as much as we talk about reskilling and upskilling, I don't know whether the exponential growth, as you said, is keep changing by weeks, by by months, it's not year, by weeks and months, right? So I don't think you can keep up with upskilling and reskilling if we are replacing so many labors, with technology. So the question is, what happens?
I think the blind spot that most businesses will have, society will have, is even when you think about the 6 levels of autonomous vehicle, it's linear improvement with assistive technologies. But when you get to level 5 and it's fully autonomous, then it's nonlinear.
Yes.
So when we talk about digital labor as co-pilots, providing assistive support in how to better write, how to better respond, but as it has agencies to take action and it's continuously improving, it turns out you spend a lifetime to become a grandmaster in chess or Go. AlphaGo Zero plays itself for 4 days and it can never be beaten again. So there's a non-linear impact of autonomy that I don't think the world understands is right around the corner. Right around the corner.
Some matrix laws 100%. Here.
Yeah,
we have some laws that predict the matrix, right? Like prevent us from.
100%.
But your other point was really true. What do we have when unlimited time? This is very interesting. So between epigenetics having us leaving to 120, unlimited time, right, and the sense of loss of purpose, we're going to have some of the best riots and revolutions ever. Or
No kidding.
Do we have a global deceleration of GDP because nothing needs to be manufactured because the cost comes down to zero? Does humanity just get lost, or is this kind of like The Expanse, right? You've got Earth versus Mars, and suddenly we find a portal. Like, where does this go?
I don't know, because I think that look, I think there'll be a gap, right? Because the gap in the sense that you can't just say that it can be all produced, so nobody needs to buy anything. It just everything is free. I mean, then you're just totally flip the free economy and capitalism's infrastructure that we have
to
created,
the Star Trek economy. That's really what we're asking. Without bringing back,
Well, if you listen to CEO of NVIDIA, I mean, Jensen reminds us for the last 2 years, relevant, thriving, growing businesses are in the business of producing intelligence and labor.
Right.
So I can't believe we only allotted 20 minutes with Faisal. This is a 4-hour podcast.
We're going to have to.
Can we have an easy question for Faisal to respond to that?
I think so. A lot of these, the practical questions that we are asking today, how does a business go and implement AI? What kind of governance structure should we put together? How do we change our mindset, and how does that mindset impact the transformation? Right? These questions that we are answering today are actually easy questions. About what's going to happen 3 to 5 years from now are much bigger and complex question. And one of the things that I learned last year, 8 years of being working with DoD. There's a geopolitical impact. As you were saying, Ray, the unrest and nefarious characters having access to these technologies, right?
If I'm China, this is the best thing ever, right? Population decline, full autonomy, no need to manage people. I can run an authoritarian dictatorship forever, right? My energy costs are 2 cents per kilowatt hour, right? I'm going to run this more efficiently than the rest of the world. I mean, that's the geopolitical implication that we're playing the wrong game. We got to get energy costs down to do this. But hey, we could talk forever. If you can stay afterwards, we'll catch you in the green room. Maybe we'll have you at our conference because this is definitely a great conversation point. But Faisal Hoque, award-winning entrepreneur, globally recognized management thinker and technologist, a #1 Wall Street Journal best-selling author and author of the new book Transcend: Unlocking Humanity in the Age of AI. April 8th.
You can pre-order right now.
Get the book.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being on the show. We'll catch you in the green room along with Cynthia.
Congratulations. Sure to be another bestseller. He's a big thinker. This is what happens when you get some of the biggest thinkers in the world on the show. We start pepper spraying them with questions that the answer warrants a book itself. So
I think we talk long enough, the AI will write the book for him. You won't have to worry.
Yeah. Ray, do us a favor and summarize, Jason, Cynthia, Faisal.
Why am I doing summarization? Where's the DisrupTV AI agent that does summarization?
That's what we got to talk to our producer, Elle, who could quickly use Perplexity or Gemini or Grok or ChatGPT.
We'll choose the best summarization tool
to summarize the show.
Jason basically said, hey, look, we're going to change the way we lead. We're going to look at talent differently. Are you preferred for that? Are you prepared for that AI revolution? Cynthia basically came back to us and said, look, you hothead humans, we need to operate differently. So the pause principle, how do we actually get to more mindfulness? And this really is interesting because that's the heart of humanity is being lost in this age of AI. And how do we bring and restore some of that humanity back? And Faisal kind of painted a picture for us, really thinking about, what's going to be happening next in terms of this, this AI meaning to our mission and purpose as being a human. And what do we want to preserve? Because we have a very limited time to design the AI that we want. And the AI that respects the values of humanity, or else it's just going to all consume us. Or maybe I'm being more dystopian than he was. So anyways, that's the summary, Vala. If you want to choose a better summarization tool, please replace me.
Yeah, no, that was great. And, Faisal does, safe, responsible development of AI will require collaboration between governments, businesses, academia, public. So it's a book that really tries to focus on not just technology and the velocity of change, speed, and direction, but preserving humanity and making sure that
Vala, on the road to 400 episodes, what's next?
400 episodes. Yeah, we've got we're 7 away from 400 episodes. So far, we've interviewed 1,335 guests. In case you were wondering, 1,335. So we're getting close to 1,400 interviews and 400. Who's counting? Next week we have someone who's been considered the godfather of the internet, and I'm not saying that lightly. We both share the title evangelist. He just happens to be evangelist for one of the largest companies on earth at Alphabet. We have Vint Cerf, the inventor of TCP/IP, for those of you who understand the protocol that helps scale the web. And he's the chief internet evangelist at Alphabet. And he'll be joining us. It's an honor to have the godfather of the internet with us. We have Dr. David Bray, who's Distinguished Fellow, Stimson Center, and business executive at National Security. Of course, Dr. Bray has been on our show numerous times, so our community is very familiar with Dr. Bray. And Irene Yam, author of Build World-Class Customer Advisory Boards, How to Create Deeper Relationships and Validate Strategies. So how to build world-class customer boards, which Salesforce has an incredible customer advisory board that I have the privilege of learning from often. So looking forward to Irene's book. Vint Cerf, Dr. Bray, Irene Yam. So buckle your seatbelts, get your popcorn. Next week's show should be pretty awesome.
Well, if it's Friday, it's DisrupTV every Friday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And of course, roll the tape. We're out of here.